Okay, now I'm recording. Let's go back. All right, so I'm gonna reintroduce myself. So, hello, welcome everyone to my meeting or talk, you could say, to an introduction to the Hivestorm competition, where I'll go into depth, and I'll give off all the information is officially out there and that I can offer from my experience on what the competition is. Why you should, if you're interested in competing in it, why you should compete, and if you have any other questions, they should all be solved through this talk. All right. If you do have any questions throughout any section of here, please write them down or don't have them memorized somewhere. At the very end, we will have a Q&A. I'll have a link that you basically post your question, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Right. All right. Let us start. So this is the table of contents. So what we're gonna go over so far, nothing too huge. Again, my goal is that everyone can understand this on a simple level. Since no experience is required to just get into this, I will try to minimize the amount of big terminology words I use. But even if I end up using them, I'll explain what they mean. Right. Cool. I'm hoping everything sounds good on your guys' end. If anyone could mention in general, just to double check. I don't want it to be where oh, I'm speaking and then it's no one can hear me. So I'm hoping if anyone could just confirm me quickly in Discord general just to say, all right, good. Thank you very much, Jack. All right, so let's go ahead and start. So how does this competition work, right? You've never heard, all people who are just starting this competition for the first time never heard of Hivestorm. And they may have heard of it a little bit from Isaiah's talk, from our first layer talk, or from other members, or from people mentioning it in the Discord. But it's often still not enough, essentially, especially to a new beginner. So what is this competition and how does it work? So important detail to keep in mind is the competition location and details. So the competition itself will be held Wednesday, October 26th. The start time will be from 9 from 9 a.m. Pacific time and all the way till 9:59 p.m. Pacific time. Now, this does not mean the competition will be 12 hours long, no. The reason why it is because this competition itself offers, well, I'll go into location, which will be the factor why it is like that. The location for the competition will actually be your choice. They have the option of doing online or on campus. Usually we do have a room spared for this competition to host. So far we haven't confirmed anything on what room we use this year. But when we do have information on that, one of us executive board members will announce that. But yeah, back to why it start time is from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. The reason is because this competition offers a window. So the competition itself is actually 4 hours, so 4 hours long, but it lets you play within this time window to kind of accommodate people's schedules. Now, there's maybe some times where some teams are just not able to compete at all because maybe they work or they have school or something like that, which but hopefully at this time should be able to accommodate at least for your team to compete in. So just keep that in mind. So it's 4 hours long officially, and you have between these two times to compete in. So understanding the competition, right? That's the whole point you're here, right? So I'm gonna refer first to the official definition that's given on the website. So Hivestorm is a collegiate-focused cyber defense competition. Collegiate-focused meaning it's a focus on colleges. It's only college exclusive. And obviously cyber defense meaning some sort of defense and cybersecurity. They claim, so their definition is that how the competition is run is that teams will compete by securing provided Windows and Linux-based virtual machines. And in those virtual machines, they will have the job or their goal of removing various malware, other infections, correcting any system misconfigurations, migrating vulnerabilities, which is another fancy way of of removing vulnerabilities, disabling any vulnerable or unnecessary services, and so on and so forth. And the way teams win is that teams will accumulate points by addressing each scored issue, and they must each race against the clock to accumulate as many points as they can before the time expires, right? So this right here essentially tells you what the goal of the competition is and how you would win it. But here's my definition, my in simpler terms, I believe, which I think a more changing perspective to how Hivestorm does it, how it explains it. I mean, Hivestorm explains it well, but I believe that through this discussion, it kind of helps focus and helps clear a lot more of what you're looking for and how to prepare better for these types of competition. So the way I would actually more define Hivestorm is it's a college level incident response and remediation competition. So what I mean by that, so essentially we as teams step into the role as a corporate incident response team. That we have been assigned a business computer network in the aftermath of a cyber attack on a company's servers, right? So we're basically given like contracts to this random company because their machines got attacked, and we have to kind of like we're like the first responders, right? So if you've never heard of IR before, incident response is a huge factor when it comes to cybersecurity because it's similar to how real life, when there's an incident that happens, who's the first one you call, right? You call 911, and either firefighters, paramedics, police, or all of them will come in and respond to that incident, right? And that's a similar idea with IR. That's a bit different. The idea being that when a computer is attacked, an IR team is deployed, and they're in charge of figuring out, okay, what's going on, what kind of attacks happen. It could depend either it being a live situation or it being after the aftermath, right? But for this case, we're in the situation where it's an aftermath of an attack happening. So we're trying to figure out what was done to these machines and, how to remove whatever bad stuff was done to it and ensure that it doesn't happen again in the future. That's in simple terms what the competition is pretty much about. More specifically, this would be your team objective, if I were to list them out. So during the competition, your teams would work towards uncovering forensic data about the incident, reversing any malicious or extraneous changes made by the attackers, further hardening the system in order to protect it from future threats, maintaining critical services running, which follows something known as service level agreements. If you don't know what service level agreements or SLAs are, they're kind of basically more of like kind of a contract or policy when it comes to like a service provider towards a client, or they kind of agree that that our service will be up 99.99% of the time. Like they'll do their best to ensure that uptime is that much. If they don't, well then the service provider lose money. Although this isn't really like hugely enforced when it comes to like, regular people, like let's say like internet, right? You have like internet outages, but like, they'll make do. But for corporates, it's a really huge deal, right? Because if you don't recognize, if any like our main services, like let's say Google or even like Facebook or anything huge, any huge platform that we use goes down all of a sudden, not only does it hinder the operations that other systems may depend on, but also that company itself loses money. Or another example could be that that incident where a bunch of machines that were subscribed to CrowdStrike's security solution, there was a bad update push, and a lot of services and servers that was using that service kind of went down because of that bad update. And in return, they lost like a lot of money. All those airports, lost a lot of money, and they had to like give out some sort of accommodation, even though it was trash combination, but they lost money, right? And their reputation in stocks and so on and so forth. So keeping your critical services running is important during the comp. If not, you'll be penalized. I'll speak more about that later. All right, so competition scenarios. So each image itself that is provided to you, or also every year, will have a scenario included. Now, how do you see what scenario we have? Well, each machine will have what's known as a README file. It contains everything you need to understand on what to do and how to work on each machine. It's essentially like kind of your job description. You read it up and it tells you everything about the image itself, they want you to do, and the scenario about the machine, how the machine is being used. Um, I'll go into detail like what specifically is listed. Uh, First one is they mention forensic questions. Well, they mention about it. Um, what are forensic questions? Forensic questions are like basically TXT files that are like at the desktop, or they're requests for information, which is usually done through some sort of forensics. For example, maybe they'll ask, "Hey, could you check the logs of the web app and see how many unique IP addresses were accessing it?" Or something like, "Hey, we recovered this weird image that was left behind, but it was corrupted. Can you do some forensics and see what kind of data is still there?" Um, it could even be something like cryptography, like, oh, there's this message that was left behind by the attackers, but it was encrypted, and we hope that you can figure it, like decrypt it or uh, de-encode it to figure out what the message says. And then you submit your answer, and then you save it, and then if it's correct, you get points. If not, you can retry as many times as you want. Which of course each forensic question being different, and usually there's about 1 to 3 forensic questions per machine, and there usually are the most points you get out of all the vulnerabilities is these. In the README, you contain a accompanying scenario. So each of them will include a unique situation on how, like I mentioned before, like how the machine itself is being used and how they want you to manage your service. This is important to kind of when you read it itself, because they'll kind of describe what kind of strategy you use. Maybe they'll have like they say, oh, it's a web server, and we kind of want to make sure that this web server has certain security features enabled, and that also our users on the system have their password changed or something like that. Um, After that, it'll then include the company policy for the set of operating system, which is just in short just tasks they want you to do to ensure that these things are done and followed. These could be very specific or very generic. It could be stuff like, oh, making sure that they use by default company approved browser like Firefox and make sure that's updated. Or hey, for Windows machines, they might say as well, oh, we're having Notepad++ as one of our approved programs. Please make sure it's updated to the most updated version, something like that. It could also be very specific when it comes to what, depending on what services are running on there. They could ask for, we want to make sure that these 4 users can connect to our SSH server using key-based authentication. So create a group with these users and then configure the SSH server to have key-based authentication. And if you don't know what that is, if you don't know what SSH is, it's a server or it's a service that you can use to remotely interact with another machine without physically being there. And then key-based authentication is where instead of using passwords to log in, you would use a file instead, which eliminates the whole point of like password brute force attempts. It's a way of being secure, but as long as you keep the file itself safe. So critical services, I mentioned this before, but you basically you understand the point that I made about what is meant by critical services. These critical services are essentially the company business dependent services. So what actual services are actually being used by the company on this server machine. And this could vary. This could be either like a website, a web application, a database could be running here, some sort of remote management software like SSH, RDP, file sharing software like FTP servers, Samba servers. These both could be on Windows or Linux, right? And the chances are of being multiple. Actually, there's one I didn't mention here was mail. Mail could also be included here, and also DNS, right? Because realistically, big corporations use all those services for their business practices and for their clients, right? So, and then the last thing they'll include, well, the second to last important thing they'll include is the authorized users that's meant to be on the system, which is it's a very important part of when you're competing. Is that it's going to ask you to make sure that these users should only be the only ones allowed, and it's just telling you, hey, there might be some unauthorized users, and please double check and remove any of them that should not be there, or also to check if there's any unauthorized admins, or any like users that have admin access that should not have admin access, right? And then in addition, you'll have like passwords provided by the admins, which would be a hint towards, oh, if any of them have a weak password, change it. I'll have a demonstration later at the end, so if you forget any of this, I'll mention it again during that. All right, so here's an example of a README from Hivestorm. And at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and charge my laptop before it dies. Actually, I'll pull it up while I'm getting that. So I'm going to pull up, like, I couldn't put it in the slide because it's a little big. So I'm going to go ahead and go change really quickly the stream focus real quick. All right, cool. I'll go ahead and go here. I know I have put a bit of stuff, don't I? Okay. Not this, but I'll go with this one. So here's from last year. This was for an Ubuntu 22 machine. They have the readmes as like pictures. There's a reason why, but it's more like it's a bit more complicated. But so they have them in pictures, and this is how the layout is. Like I mentioned, actually this part I didn't mention. So they'll remind you that to enter your unique identifier. I'll mention it a little more later, but to identify that you are competing for your said team, you'll be identified by like a unique identifier, and then once you power on the machine itself, it'll ask you to enter that ID, and then it'll begin scoring out instantly. So this is just a reminder at the beginning, like, oh, if you haven't, please do so. If not, it'll like kill itself essentially if you don't do it. So yeah, so as I mentioned, this layout, so they mentioned about the forensic questions on your desktop. You receive points for answering these questions correctly, that it being valid, but you can try as many times as you want. They do recommend, and I also recommend, is that you don't do anything like any vulnerability remediation or any patching yet until you do these forensic questions, because these questions could be very sensitive to files and programs, or if they would be a vulnerability, but they might want information, like they want, hey, these attackers took advantage of our web application, but we believe it's because of the version we were using. Can you mention what version it was? But then you forgot that beforehand you updated it, so now you don't know what the version it was for the answer. So the strategy is usually just first reading the README, and then going to the forensic questions, and then trying to answer as many as you can for a good amount of time. Here's an example of what a company scenario could be, or the company scenario. So for this one, it was, oh, you work for a new website hosting company. The company's security policy require that all user accounts become password protected. Employees are required to choose security passwords. However, this policy may not be currently enforced on this computer. The presence of any non-work related medias and hacking tools on any computer is strictly prohibited. This company does not use any centralized maintenance or polling tools to manage their IT equipment. This computer is for official business use only by authorized users. Your job is to secure this computer within the guidelines of the scenario while ensuring the availability of authorized business critical software and services. So it's kind of your hints. This whole thing is kind of like your whole hints. Like it's telling you, oh, there might be some stuff here. You just check for it, and most likely there is like that stuff. Or it may not, because Hivestorm is a little bit difficult in the sense that, some vulnerabilities may not be scored, specific ones, but don't worry about that for now. And then each operating system will have its own specific policy itself. So for this version, it was Ubuntu 22, so It is company policy to use the latest official stable Ubuntu 22.04 packages available for the required software and services on the computer. It mentions a little like extra stuff, so like or like a specific um, thing here that says, "Oh, the display manager should remain as GDM3. Please do not use WLAN on any company server." So probably remove WLAN if there is any, um, or WLAN package if it's installed, which is the display manager, so the thing that lets you see like the whole desktop and stuff. Packages should be installed and managed by APT. However, some packages may have been installed as snap and should be reviewed for adherence for company policies. Which, if you don't know what snap is just another way that Ubuntu itself installs packages, but they're kind of bad how it installs it. So even like this competition acknowledges that snap is just not a good way, and ABT is the way that should be done. Management should decide that default web browser for all users on the computer should be the latest stable version of Firefox. Firefox must remain installed during using the official Mozilla PPA, so another hint of what to do for points, and not as a snap package. Employees must have access to the latest stable version of LibreOffice. So, okay, so that tells us, okay, we have points for updating LibreOffice. The only company approved firewall for this company is UFW, so just make sure there's any other conflicting firewall software. Company policy is to never let user log in as root, lock root basically. If administrators need to run commands as root, they are required to use sudo. The sudo command, so just make sure sudo itself is installed and configured using sudoers. The last thing it just mentions here is that this system is hosting a LAMP stack, Linux, Nginx, MariaDB, and PHP, which is basically a stack is basically a technology. Well, this is more of a technology stack. So it's just saying that, oh, this service hub is just using various software itself. Because, technology isn't really defined just by hardware. It can also be software, right? It says it serves as a new PHP form, so it's running a form server. Please ensure the website remains operational and that the relevant website files are now removed from the present location. PHP is essential to the current web design and must remain installed on the machine. So, in other words, the way I see it is that it's telling you, hey, if our service goes down, we're gonna give you a penalty, and if you also remove PHP, you also get a penalty. And it tells you all the critical services with it. So we have an Nginx web server, we have a MariaDB database, we have PHP running as the backend for like the web application itself, and then we have OpenSSH remote management server. And then the last few bits is just authorize admins and users. So this is what I meant by oh, my bad. So this is what I meant by they'll give you a section for admins and they'll give you their passwords. As an Experience member, not only are these good to know for like if you need to log into another admin in case yours gets for some reason locked out, if you end up misconfiguring something or you lock yourself out somehow. But one good hint is that you see how notice how this one user out of all of these, they look pretty secure. Like they have numbers, long characters, symbols, but then you have this one which is like this really like just basic password. Yeah, usually if you change that password, it'll give you points. So that's just like a free point right there. You just change this user's password to something more secure. Your choice. And the same thing it should be done for all of these users. Even though they don't mention like a whole password thing, I would recommend manually giving them a password. Because there's chances where you get points for like one of them not having a password at all. So, and at the bottom it gives you some like guidelines to the comp itself, to avoid any like bad experiences. So they mention like don't change your own password, leave it as is. There's no vulnerability about it, just leave it as is because it causes issues. And because I have it configured with all logins, so when you set on a machine, it will automatically log you in. That's when we did an audit, but I'm not guaranteed. Please do not disable like the scoring client service, thinking that it's a malware. Do not remove any unauthorized users or home directories, because then you get a penalty for that. Do not change the time zone. If you want to view your scoring report, which is like it tells you like all the points you got, there's a file called scoring. This is CSS scoring report, and you click that, and then pretty much it. Oh, and then also if you do any security settings on the browser itself, don't do it like strict or you might break the website. That's pretty much it. At least this is for like Ubuntu. They're kind of long, to be honest. And if I were to cycle them, like this is like server 2019, and then this was like a this is like another Ubuntu one, and then this is like the Fedora one. But don't worry about the Fedora machine. I don't believe like I would recommend new teams that are competing don't touch this machine because you don't really have to play on any all the machines. Just play and on any one of them you can and just gain as many points as you want. But usually Fedora, Linux is the hardest VM they have. So yeah. So there's teams that literally don't just ignore Fedora and just do work on the other easier machines. But that's what the README is, and it's basically everything you need to know about your machine and how to fix it. Let me go also plug in my laptop. I didn't plug it in this whole time. What I'm just looking for an outlet. All right, found an outlet. Don't worry, I'm still here. How are we doing with time? Okay, let's go. Keep going. So this is the last thing which is I'm repeating myself. So the UID. So um, I'm in a typo right there, but each team will have a team unique identifier, which would be asked to be entered at the start of the competition, or the start of every VM that you power on. An example of it would be like this. It's just be like a random characters. It's important to never share this because the scoring engine will identify your team with this. So if you were to share this, another team could use it. They could sabotage you, right? Or so. And they're given by your team captain. So whoever that may be in your team captain, they'll be the one to receive the email by, oh, what's the team unique ID and the images to download and such. So you make sure you always keep in contact with your team captain. All right. So how are you scored? So as we tell, it's points, right? It's a point-based system. So each image itself is worth 100 points, and each vulnerability patch will give you about, depending on it, it'll be between 1 to 5. That including forensic questions, as that counts as a vulnerability or a security issue. Well, of course, the objective is that the more points you gain, the higher rank you are, and then you win by being rank 1. On the right hand side is the example of my team. At least one of the team that I played with last year. We did pretty. I don't know. Yeah, this was the end, 71 points. So you, you notice there's like they have the image. So we had 5 images. I'm hoping they don't do the same thing this year, but they had 5 images between 4 people, so I had to do 2. They have time. They give you the time. They give you how many vulnerabilities you found and how many they remain. And yes, you can see they put a lot of vulnerabilities on each one machine, and including penalties and your final score and accumulation are here. This will be like a website that'll be visible to everyone. So if you want to see like how well you're doing among your team, you could go to the website. And then there's also like another like section for like the national rank. All right, so this is the one really critical point of our talk, which is how are you scored? Like, what is the scoring engine looking after for? Um, so yeah, like what do you know what is registered as removing a vulnerability in each machine, right? Um, so the scoring engine will actually score you based on this following category right here. So if you want to take a screenshot, you want to like ask for a copy later, I can send it. I'll probably resend it in the Hivestorm channel that we have here in Discord. But this tells you exactly what you want to research and what you will be scored on, right? So it goes from account policy, so configuring account policies like um, passwords should be encrypted, passwords or very well encrypted. It's like a good encryption algorithm. And passwords should be complex, right? It'll score you if you have that sort of stuff. Uh, you, if people try to log into the account a certain amount of times, so they get locked out. Um, for application security setting, it's more like it's not the critical services. It's just for application that's running. So an example would be like, oh no, yeah, it says this. Yeah, it says critical service settings. Never mind. Um, this one's referring to if you can configure properly not only the critical services but also applications. So configure, let's say for example, SSH server to not log in as root. Disallow that. And then for another example would be like for the browser, Firefox, maybe have it so that it blocks pop-ups. They score you even Firefox. They score you if you configure properly. And then making sure that permissions for applications are set to a good uh, configuration. Application updates are pretty self-explanatory, so making sure that applications in the operating system. Well, no, this is more focused on applications. So applications are updated. This is referenced because depending on the operating system itself, it's separate from operating system updates because you might have to go an extra step for the application itself. So for Linux, for example, you might have to manually add the repository so that you have the most up-to-date version of that application. And then for Windows, you might have to like re-download like the installer exe for the set software, rerun it, and then that'll update it. Having some sort of defense countermeasures, so this would include mainly like firewall, enabling your firewall, having some sort of antivirus solution. I don't know about encryption. I never had anything about like, encryption being a score thing, but I don't know. They mention it, so forensic questions, we already went over what forensic questions are. I'll also mention a bit more like how they look like. Local policies, this one's more like specific into how certain operations on the system are handled. These are like some good ones to look into. Some of them are from Windows, some of them you can just look up for Linux. Just like, Linux audit policy configuration. For Linux, it's something called sysctl, so sysctl. That would be your local policies. And then for Windows, you have like your security policies, basically, your secpol. OS updates, so updating your operating system in general, making sure that all the updates are available. And then you have 3 like policy violations, so you get points for moving any malware, any prohibited files, like I mentioned, so any media files, any like. There's also cases where there's like a TXT file with passwords in it. You randomly find like some random user's directory. You remove that, you get points. Removing any games or any unwanted software that's not supposed to be on the company machine, so games, any hacking tools, so forth. Removing any unnecessary services, so there could be like, even though it says it was a web server on that one README we saw, but there's like a Minecraft server or some like Doom server or FTP server that's unnecessary. You remove it because the company said that's not the service they're running on, so you get points for removing or disabling that service. Oh, my bad. And then the last 2 are just like uncategorized, so like any other service, any sort of vulnerabilities that fit outside, and then user auditing, which is what I meant, like making sure that only authorized users are allowed, only authorized admins are allowed, fitting to what the README says. So how are teams formed, right? It is not possible to do this alone, right? It's quite a lot in terms of one person, so that's why teams are very required. Teams are important. So I'm gonna just quote from the official team book, right, from Hivestorm. So the team composition is that Hivestorm team can consist of minimum 2 people to 4 players. They have to be kind of a part of the college that they're competing from. So if you want to win any prizes, you have to be part of the same college. They do mention like people from different colleges could compete together, but they just won't be eligible for any prizes or such. And of course that only students can participate in one team, so you can't just be part of multiple teams. They did an architecture where you can add alternates, so if you're like, you want to add more people to your team, I guess you could add them. Technically no one's there to supervise if whether or not these alternates don't are like not playing on the main machine, because supposedly there was like only 4 people allowed to play on the computers, and then 2 ones are just like backups, but like I mean Usually the way it works, the alternates would be your research people. It kind of be your helpers. So you can include them if you want, but it's always been kind of four players. And each team will have a team captain. They'll act as a team license, so they'll be the people who the competition staff will communicate to before, during, and after the competition. Um, Anyone could be a team captain, whether it be assigned by the group or, but each team will have its own team captain, and that team captain will be unique to that team to that year. So for example, I can't be team captain for multiple. But let's say, oh well, I don't have a team, right? Not to worry. So I'm repeating myself a little bit, but yeah. How do you form the power of friendship in terms of like a team-based competition? There's two options. So you can create your own, I mentioned. So members are allowed to create your own teams among friends or random people. You can literally hit up in Discord like, hey, anyone want to like do Hivestorm together? I'm interested. And then anyone could be like, oh yeah, well let's do it. And then there we go. Again, the minimum is like 2 people. You can go up to 4 or 6. However, the condition is that the team captain of that group will have to register that themselves to the event. It's pretty easy though. Just go to like the official website, go to the event section, go for registration, and just fill out all the information. It should take about 2 or 3 minutes, or brain rot measurements, maybe like 4 Instagram reels or TikToks. But let's say you can't make your own team. Not a problem. You can have the option of being randomly assigned a team, or basically be mixed up, randomly assigned a team. This will be taken care of by us. The condition is if you fill out the form itself, just mention that you want to be put in a random team. Also, I should mention that even if you create your own team and you register on your own, please fill out the interest form and just specify that you're going to have your own team. That way we can kind of, if you're planning to compete on campus with us, we have an idea how many people are coming, and if we bring food, how much food we should bring. So please keep that in mind. But yeah, back if you want to go into a random team, just fill out the interest form and just mention, hey, I want to be random. I'm fine with it, and we'll take care of the rest. So how do you use the power of friendship, right? After you're in a team, my recommended layout should be the following. You should have 2 Windows members and 2 Linux members. Now they don't have to be expert, right? You just have to be people who are like, oh, they're fine with using that operating system. That being the reason why is because the layout of the images is usually 2 Windows VMs and 2 Linux VMs, so it's just kind of tells you what kind of layout you should have. If let's say you have a team and you're all Linux, that is not. I would say that it's even though you may main a different operating system, that it's more of a reason to explore and try out a different operating system. So even though you'll say you're Linux, but like there's too many Linux members on your team, it would be a great opportunity for you guys to like jump over and try something completely different, which is what I've been doing, right? I do Linux, but I've been trying more Windows for these competitions. Even though I've done Linux for a lot and I have a lot of experience in it, but having experience on both ends is really strong. It makes you really strong in general. Teamwork, right? A team can't work without it working, right? The whole point of the team is to work together. If there's no cohesion, the team isn't as strong. So, when you be sure to meet your team, right? Create some sort of communication platforms, whether it be group chats or Discord servers, to communicate, strategize, or even train together. And to be sure to communicate with each other in terms of like what skills you have, how you guys want to play it out, how your schedules are going to align for what time you want to compete. Communication is very important to making sure that this event is fun and everyone has a great time in general, and and that there's no complications. Even in real life, communication is very important in real life for all situations. And of course, you make friends, right? Since I want to really reiterate this a lot when it comes to people competing, is that I want to remind you guys that the focus of the competition is the experience, not just winning. I know that I also used to be like really focused on, oh man, I'm gonna win for sure. I'm gonna work and I'm gonna do a lot of research beforehand. And like I focus so much on winning, but like you forget the experience. It's more about the experience. Um, the experience, focusing on just more experience stuff, you get more out of it. It's more of just having fun. A lot of people, this is your first cybersecurity competition, and that should be more of like just focus on like, oh, it's my first time trying this out, and then just being able to absorb it without any stress. There's no need for stress. Also, consider I'm gonna be for real. Um, it's really hard to win these competitions, which is why I'm just kind of like I just use it as a way to just kind of just have fun. Right. So again, no, don't stress too much about the competition. Just focus more on like, oh, being a new experience to you, to learning a lot new more things, and just having fun. All right, so how do you play the game? So, um, I'll kind of give you a demonstration. Well, this will be the demonstration of how it is you start the comp. I'm gonna have to exit this. So, the way it's set up is, let me move a lot of this stuff out of the way. Anyways, so the way you set up is that each competition image is given as a VM, and you will need some sort of virtualization technology, like software, to run it. Now this is where it comes, where it's a little bit of a hardware limitation a little bit, but I believe every machine should now be able to kind of hopefully be able to run these VMs. The only requirement is that your machine supports virtualization and you have like 8 GB of RAM. That's like the minimum. Like if you have 8 gigs of RAM, then you should be fine to be able to run these images. If you don't have any software for running these images, don't worry. I'll include them at least in the Discord. There's two you can install. There's one called Virtual Box, Oracle Virtual Box. It's free, so you just go ahead and click download and you set it up. It'll look like this. Give it a second. There we go. With this, you just go ahead. I believe you just add it, and then the image itself that you find, you just add it in, and then you just run it from there. If you don't want to use VirtualBox, there's another one also that exists that's called VMware. That's the one I use specifically. I know right now they have like VMware. Hold on. Commercial. All right. They have Pro, but honestly, I don't like Pro. I like the older version, which is like Workstation Just Player. Um, you can try both out. The Pro, they're both free, but I've had problems with the Pro, so I don't use Pro. I just use the regular one. I do have like the the old installer for this one because I don't believe it's available on their website, but I have the installer for this one if you want to use it. Um, so you just basically just install it, set it up, and you would have access to it. Um, Once you have this set up, you download it. I could just let's say for example, I go here, go ahead, choose like, oh, I'm a window, I'm a Mac. You save it, and you just you go with the setup process. Pretty easy, pretty simple. If you have any issues, then I recommend you either mention it on Discord or you can come directly to me in the lab about it, and I'll be sure to happy to help you out. After you have it set up, the next thing you want to do is download your images. Now, I mentioned that your images will come from your team captain. So I'll just pretend like I got my images from my team captain. So there would be a link. You would go to it. You'd click download on the file. When you finish downloading it, you should receive what is like an OVA. Once you have the OVA downloaded, the next thing you do is you go back to your whatever software you end up using, VMware or VirtualBox, and you're gonna go ahead and click open. You're gonna look for it. So I have it here in competitions, Hivestorm, first images, and then you just click it, and then it'll ask you, oh, what name do you want? I can just search Hivestorm. This is like from the practice one, just put practice around Ubuntu 16. Now, for legal purposes, since these are just file names, okay, they're not actual VMs from that competition, okay, they're just file names, so mimic what you would do, and then depending on how on your device, you just go ahead and let it import it. Import, import, import. And then there we go. And that here it'll tell you, okay, Windows 8, what? It's crazy. Anyways, so you go over here, you would edit like the hardware you want to put in. So this is like by default it was using 4 gigs of RAM and 2 processors. My PC can handle that, but if you want to lower it down, you can put 1 processor and maybe lower the RAM. It's up to you. I believe if you have 8 gigs, I think it's like 3, 2. I don't remember exactly how much is like the limit. I know for 16 gigs, it's like the limit is like 5 somewhere. But it depends on your system. Once you configure your like thing, this is where I offer my experience, right? This is where I offer my my veteran experience. When you have it set up and you go into the settings, you want to make sure that settings are correct. One of them being that make sure if you have the section for like setting what operating system it is, select it. So even it said Windows, even though I'm pretty sure it was the Linux one. I can even double check. Was it Linux? Yeah, the Ubuntu one. No, that's the name of the thing. Where was it? Unless I put the Windows one, but I'm pretty sure I put the Ubuntu one. But anyways, I still follow. So if you import one of the files and it comes out as something else, be sure to put it back to like what it should be. Hopefully this is the pretense that it's not a mistake on their end, but you want to go ahead and tell it the right operating system itself. The reason why is because it'll not boot up if it believes it's a different OS, and that's really bad because this is my mistake from last year. Was that we had our team about getting ready. We said, okay, we're all gonna start, and then we click start. But then one of our members had issues booting it into it. So then the whole team, okay, let's stop, close, like just power down the machines. And then I went to go troubleshoot my teammate. It took about like an hour or so to troubleshoot and figure it out. Afterwards, we finally fixed it, and I told my team, okay, let's all boot up our machines again. We boot up our machines. Everything looked fine. We put in our unique identifiers. And then I went to check on our scoring report because it tells you how many vulnerabilities are on the machine right there. I check on it and it tells me that, oh, you have like 2.5 hours left, even though we have 4 hours, and like we're supposed to have 4 hours. I was like, huh? Why does it say we have 2.5 hours and we should have 4 hours? And I went to go on Discord to talk to support, and they told me that what it says in the long instructions when you get the email, that the timer does not start when you put the unique identifier. The timer starts when you boot the machine up. So if you're in a situation that like me, where your whole team does it, but one or two of your members have issues and you power it down, you would have to delete it and re-import it again to avoid it tracking that time. All right. So remember that, because it was a huge mistake that costs time, we did really well for 2.5 hours, but like, that's still like an hour and a half that we could have kept going and we could have had, maybe a chance. I believe even through that 2.5, we got like top 20. So yeah, like that was a huge mistake. That was on my end because I was the team captain at the time, and I spread my advice, right? I provide my advice on not to do that. But yeah, so when you're done, you just go ahead and just click play virtual machine, and then if all goes well. It should go well. It might this might work, might not work. If not, I have another VM ready. Oh, it was Windows. What the heck? Okay, well, I was completely wrong then. I don't know how I selected the Windows one and the Ubuntu one. Okay, well, I'm wrong, but is it still gonna boot? Oh, it looks like it is gonna boot. At the same time, I will open up Ubuntu one. Okay, so yeah, here this is how it looks. This is how it would look like for you. I would say it'll give you like a whole agreement, like, oh yeah, you agree that you will be ethical and follow all the legal implications. You won't, Oh, okay. So this is the part where, um, if the machines are like launched after the instance, they kind of like die instantly. So we only have like a few seconds of that thing working. It took a precaution, so they don't want people like reusing their stuff afterwards. They only want it, yeah, to kind of want to keep it closed. So if they probably saw that it was what time it was, what day it was, and it's like, well, this is not supposed to be running during this date or time. And it just kind of like did something to like shut it off automatically. And then usually it just goes eventually to like um it doesn't even boot it afterwards. But let's go into like a VM I actually can use. Um, I'll open. Actually, go ahead and extract this one. This is a VM that I created myself. I will have it open to anyone who's gonna do Linux. Um, I would recommend if you want to try out my image. There's a lot of other resources that I will share at the very end, but it's just one of them that I've made personally. At the same time, I will have open a Windows one that I had ready beforehand, anyways, so you can see both sides, right? Yeah, 4 GB is fine. Actually, no, let's put 3 processors. This VM is made by like company made, not company, community made project called Magistrate. It's one. I think this website's already referenced in the resource thing I'm mentioning. But it includes like 4 interesting, really good images, like really well developed images, like practice images, of course. If you go back to my slides, it's essentially just going like, oh yeah, so like demonstration on it. Oh no, try and connect. My internet's fine, right? Yeah, it's fine. Okay. Give it some time. If anyone's doing Windows and they do Windows practice, I will. I will say again that this image stuff is really fun. You'll see why. They're really well developed. So look at it. They have, like, the images they make. They're really cool, really close to the theme that they're about. They even have Mario music. Like, what? They have Mario 64 music playing in the background, and they changed like the whole theme of it to fit. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that fun? Like, don't you want to mess with this? Okay, so this is what I meant. So we'll have our like server, and then we should have. Okay, well, this one's like has a theme. They don't have to exactly follow like how the competition follows, but the idea is the same. So health. Having trouble getting started. On the right side of the screen, you should 4 icons. Top icon looks like a star. It's your scoring report. Second icon on the top is like a lock. It's your forensic question answering into what? Third icon on the top is like a sign. It's a readme. The final one is your settings. If the phone bothers you, can fix it there. Okay, interesting. Okay, so our readme is this one. It's a food drive link. Using Internet Explorer, no. It's so slow. Oh. This is a score report. Oh wow, look, we got 2 penalties already. Murray SQL database service is unavailable and web service is unavailable. And this one's the forensic question. But I wish I want to see the readme. Let me see if I can access the thing on the thing. Okay, so there it is. So yeah, it's really well developed. If you want to have fun while practicing, I do this. Or even in general, just messing around with it is fun. So the readme is like, okay, so dear Mario, ever since Luigi took over the IT department, things have been great. However, these have been a problem because he has been crying in the server closet for a few days now. I was hoping maybe you can figure out whatever has been going on there and fix the server up a bit. Maybe make it a bit harder for Bowser to get back into the server. Because let's be honest, we all know it was him, and he's gonna keep posting cringe to it something about it. I was able to get Luigi to make you a special account, and just in case you need a password, it's this. That's really all. However, I have a few things that I should mention for letting you work. We're hosting a shopping site, so secure the page for me. I think it's called HTTPS or something. And then Luigi said he already made sure that the service made sure that there are no authorized users on the system. So don't worry about that. But personally, I think you should go ahead and make sure everyone is secure after what happened last time, and then so on and so forth. And then these are our services. So we have IIS, which is web server for Microsoft, Active Directory DNS, Active Directory Domain Services, Maria SQL, and SMB and PHP. Awesome. And then we have like, these are just like ways we get points to. So you can see them as quests. Or like warnings. Please don't update the server. Last time we did that, we had to redo the entire website. Okay, so don't update it. Any files or any programs that there, can you get rid of it? Making him his own organizational unit. You can see, yeah. Alright, so okay, that's first one. In the forensic questions, we go to forensic questions. So, according to the management, suspicious activity appeared under a user that no longer exists. What is the SID of the deleted user? For real, I don't really know enough Windows for this. Let's go with the other ones. What the other ones are. What command was used to load this escalation mechanism? Notice even delete user. A specific command was used to escalate privileges and leak user information. Interesting. This is a compromised log showed initial activity escalating Luigi's account due to lack of a password policy in place. We believe Luigi's account was compromised. What is Luigi's plain text password? Okay. Let's see if we can do any of these. Now, my strategy would be that in the README, you should take a picture of the passwords. Here it's like they have like this one password, but in Hivestorm when they have various passwords, you You want to take a picture because there's a chance that you lock yourself out by accident, and you're trying to remember the password and you can't, and then you have to restart the VM itself and lose all your points. Let's see. Oh, cool, you make it full window now. And then this is supposed to be a scoring. Oh yeah, there's a scoring where we have like negative points. So I'll do this like a few minutes just to show like, okay, so first one was something about a deleted user. Was it? Now this goes into like later in the presentation. I'll go like the last one was that user resources which is the internet. Oh, connect. No, I want to start it up. Can I start it up? It's turning it down, so I believe not this. It would be. Let me just the management. This isn't it then. Probably have to go to like. What was down? It was. No, not the README. The IIS website. Services. Alright, so I'm not the best at a Windows server, but this is an opportunity for me to learn it. So I'll probably mess with this later on when I'm like more free. So yeah, this goes into okay. So the first, I'm gonna do the first one real quick, and then I'll probably like flip. Wrong one. Call it like right there. So copy. So switch to user that isn't X. What's the SID? So I'm gonna Google is your best friend. So during the competition, you must be good at, or even in general, like knowing how to Google. And I believe we all know how to Google because we're students. We kind of do this during exams or during assignments. We do last minute. So knowing how to Google is very critical skill, not only in life but in this competition. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna Google it. How to find the SID of a user Windows Windows server. Okay. You just run the command. Like PowerShell. And then you're in the command. Okay. So wmic. My username is the actual user you want to do. No, I want not this. How to find? What was back? We're going for the. What was the user, right? Oh, this is not. This is an example. Switch to computer user does no longer exist. Okay, so I have to see all users deleted. Windows server. Okay, so event viewer. I'll go back to the PowerShell thing, but event viewer. This is for search for. It even has a little coin thing. Login time, sure. Enter the ID. I want to take the ID. There you go. And I put in, so I want to see 4726. Let's give that a shot. Yeah, I have something, I think. Make it bigger. Okay. So, Luigi, Bowser. Look at it's a security. Oh, there's our security ID. Copy it. Let's see if it copied it. Oh, there you go. It's been checked. Is it correct? Let's see our scoring report. Oh, nice. We got a point. Friends, question 2 is correct. 2? Okay, so it's a little. It might be a little bit buggy, but you know, it works, right? Oh, it's a 1. I thought it was a 2. It's a 1. The font was just weird. Okay, well, yeah, we get the point. So you do that, and you would go back to, like, go back to our slides, and then you'd go back to where, the categories, and you'd kind of follow the categories. And then the same things for Linux. If I open up I'll close this off now. And then I'll just go lastly show the Linux one. I won't do much into it. I'll just show you how it is. Just open it. Practice images. It's called Mojang Compromised. It's running Ubuntu 18. It's a little older. I've been meaning to kind of update it. I'm gonna lower down the RAM to 4, and I'll just leave it as 2 processors. So the name implies it's supposed to have 50 vulnerabilities. So nothing too, kind of similar to what you'd see in Hivestorm. That's the many vulnerabilities. They're just kind of less difficult. It's more easier. Now, I do challenge anyone to complete my image. No one has completed my image. I even put out a bounty. If anyone can complete it, I give them I think $25. But no one's completed it. I'd even give them their own little I mean, no, I don't think I would be able to give them their own role. It would be deleted, unfortunately, due to rules, but I would definitely honor you if whoever is able to finish this. Just let it load. Alright, I think this one doesn't have auto login, I think. I think I have to refer back to the password. Hope it's not. Hopefully it's auto logged in. Okay, there he is. So this is what my image looks like. Nothing too amazing, but I'm proud of it. So here you have README. So that's the first thing you should do. Well, first thing in Hivestorm should be to put in your team ID. And the next thing should be looking at the README. So this is the README on this VM. So you can see it has, we have a scenario. So this one's more of a similar. So there's a incident where it's similar case where there's an incident, there's an attack that happened on this machine. Former Mojang employee was terminated due to anger issues and unethical conduct in the studio. However, regrettably, our IT team inadvertently overlooked the revocation of their access privileges to our workstations, resulting in the ability to enlist services of hackers to initiate an internal cyber attack aimed at compromising the security and configuration of our Mojang workstations. Internal as in like, he gave like basically access outside for them to attack from the inside instead of from outside. And then you just go ahead and just like follow essentially what the README says. It doesn't include all the vulnerabilities that are in here, but if you follow sort of the category, you should get most of them. Right, so like, there's only one forensic question. It's pretty easy. Oh, not pretty easy, but it's one only. It's just called so what's the backdoor? I'll let you guys figure that out because it's just more thing. But I'll show you an example of like how it is when you gain points. So this is a scoring engine. I'll tell you how many vulnerabilities this is more accurate like how it is on Hivestorm. So on each machine we'll have a file like very similarly to like this. So it'll tell you how many points you have, and then how many score issues have you fixed. One of them will be that's really easy. Actually, let me go back to the README. I'll take a picture with my phone or a screenshot of the passwords. Copy the password that we are. So we're blue team. We have Mojang, Empty Server, Steve, Alex, and we only have 3 authorized users: Notch, Creeper, and Villager. Villager 2. It's big. So one of them is like enabling the firewall. I think it's turned off. Typed that wrong. Not inactive. So if you click enable, you can see it's it's up. And if you go back here on the scoring report, it'll take like a minute or so because it scans similar to Hivestorm. It will scan with between like 30 seconds or so. 30 seconds to a minute every time. So usually you wouldn't want to be like freshening out too much. Just give it a second, just work on something else and come back to it. It'll also come, sometimes it'll notify you when you get points. It'll like show up like a little notifier, oh, you gain points or you lost points. There you go, see. So I got 3 out of that, technically. So yeah, if you want to do like a Linux one, you can try out mine. There's other ones available online as well too. So that's pretty much it. The last thing I will mention is penalties. If you recall that on that Mushroom Kingdom Mario thing, it gave me like negative so and so points for having services down. So luckily those aren't permanent. They'll give you penalties if you have, let's say, their services down, or let's say you remove a user they're not supposed to. They'll remove points, but you can regain them if you can like kind of undo your change. So if a service is down or uninstall, just reinstall it or restart the service. Or if like you broke it, fix it and make sure it's running. If you remove a user, you can just re-add them, right? And then that'll fix it. I don't know about like if you remove like let's say like the web application itself, if you remove it by accident, if you don't have a backup, then that's like game over for that. At least you kind of like lost. You're gonna lose points unless you want to restart the whole VM, which is an option. So an option you could do is if there's a case where you kind of are locked out or like you brick your machine or you have to restart it. All you have to do is basically just turn it off, re-import it again, and then put in your team ID, and it'll count like, oh, you kind of went back to 0, and then you can restart from there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Go back to slideshow. Okay, these are just more of a. Oh yeah, so this one thing I will mention is once teams have registered, there will be a practice round from October 7th to October 14th. It'll be like very similar images to what I played, but they'll be like very, very easy. The idea is just to have people know how, like, be able to run the VMs, like have experience. Oh, can you open it? Like they'll have like a little period where they can like you can try out like how to do be part of the environment, so you can be ready for the official day. And also they themselves have like good practice for like easy beginners on like doing the images. They usually have like 10 vulnerabilities each, like one Windows and would be one Linux VM they provide. And then in order to get access to them, again, your team captains will be the one who will be communicating with the competition staff. So you want to make sure the team captain that you choose or that you end up having is in the loop and they're actively communicating with them. All right. Um, my last final points. So, how should you approach this competition? There's 3 points I want to bring into this. So, one of them is just research. So, this presentation itself, this song itself, is kind of a foothold into the direction that you should be going towards if you end up wanting to compete, which I recommend. Again, I really recommend. It's a good experience. It's free. Just basically allocate a bit of your time to kind of just participate. There's no stress on winning. It's just more of like, oh, just try it out and see how you like it. And we'll be there to help, kind of. Not like directly like during the competition, but we'll be there for emotional support. So research is really important. Um, Knowing it's like based off the categories that I referenced earlier in this presentation, doing your research on seeing, oh, so what things could you do? And luckily there's a lot of like public resources available that you can look at that'll help teach you. And again, using doing research alongside working on those practice images is a perfect way to learn because you're researching and also you're doing hands-on training. Um, which goes into part with the second point making. So operations and familiarity. If you're gonna want to do a wellness competition, you want to have be working with the VM you plan to work on. So if you're doing Windows, Linux, either work on a practice VM or just work with Windows Server itself. Like have a VM, boot it up, and just mess around with it, play around with it. You just set up like a web server and see how that works. How do you configure it? What good configuration should you give it to? Like what secure configuration should you have it set to? How do you do that? How do you manage it? That sort of stuff. So we have about like a month almost. So it's 16, so we have like half a month left. So on your free time, just with your team as well. Don't forget your team. Don't do this solo. With your team, be like, okay, I think we should look into this, and then okay, we'll research how to do this, and then you research how to do that, and be okay, and then you do kind of do your parts and just do your research and familiarity and getting ready to compete. Uh, the last point I'm going to bring up is automation. One of the This is like a thing that's allowed during these competition, and it's a big factor in terms of the community. Is since it's a time-based competition, every minute counts. So a lot of people try to automate their stuff by writing their own scripts. It's often for many people, including myself, it's been the first opportunity we had to like actually scripting something for like an actual purpose. That's not like an assignment or so, but like an actual like feeling like you're actually part of the real thing. It's like I've been having the idea of like scripting and automating some stuff like like automate how to do updates, automate up like firewall, simple stuff like that. I highly recommend looking into automation. My only suggestion is that you should be focusing more on consistency than speed. A lot of people like run their scripts. I'm one of them. I follow that. I run the scripts and I focus more like, oh, I want to see how many vulnerabilities I can do with just running the script, and it's gonna be so fast. I'm gonna be like ching 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 ching, but then like I run it and I don't get any vulns because I don't focus more on like on it working all like very like deeply. I just focus more like trying to save time by running them. So if you want to look into automation, just keep that in mind. We're focus more on like having the script work, making sure that any changes you have won't break the machine itself. So don't force your changes on the scoring engine. Have it be kind of played how you would if realistically if you were hired by this so-so company. All right, that's all. What time is it? I went a little bit over time. I apologize. Um, if you have any questions towards me, please access the link right on screen. And I'll be sure to check it out. I'll be viewing and answering all questions you may have. Excuse me, I'm gonna reshare real quickly my Screen. Oh, there's only three people. That's unfortunate, but it's fine. You guys are the real ones for staying to the very end. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and look at the questions if there's any. Actually, no, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna. Like I said, I was gonna switch screens, so I'll keep this. The link still there. I'll just be looking on the side of the questions. Oh, what am I doing? I can just put it side by side. Put it side by side. Okay, so we have one question. So where can we get the Mojo image? I'll be posting it on Discord. So if you go to Discord, oh, actually, I have to reshare again properly. Let me share my screen instead of the application. So if you go to Discord right here, go all the way down here towards competition announcements. Um, I'll be sure to post it here, or if not, I'll post it in Hivestorm. I believe I've already posted it before here, but I'll be sure to post it again. I don't mind. But I'll try to posting it here in the announcements. If you look up here as well, you'll see I also did like a whole like a resource thing. This is for a very similar competition. That's essentially the exact same, but it just had some extra like cool features. But the resources here I mentioned are the same thing you can use for this very same competition. So you have stuff for Windows, you have stuff for Linux here. There's some like write-ups of Hivestorm themselves, so you can actually look at like teams that won or do really well. You can see what like they do, how their experience was during that year. Um, and you can look at like some of the answers for that competition itself. But the image I'll be able to either announce it here or I'll mention it in the Hivestorm channel. But if I look up here, it should have mentioned it, I believe. Or maybe not. Maybe I did. It's been a while. I remember I did mention. I mentioned it like probably last year. Okay, well it's not. It's too far anyways. So yeah, I'll mention the link here on the download link for my Mojang image. Any other questions at all? Are you guys experts now in Hivestorm? Do you guys know how Hivestorm works? You get it? All right. I'm gonna pause the recording just for a bit, at least until there's any more questions. So just answer this person's question in chat. So if there's anywhere we can see the slides, I'll post the slides in the Hivestorm or in the announcements in the competition itself. You'll see my ping. I'll put it here. I'll also include the information of someone who asked for information on the Mojang image itself. I'll also post in the Google Drive link to download that. All right, someone had a question. So will we later have a Hivestorm team, or is it just between friends and team? So we can have multiple teams. It's not limited to just one main team. For example, like for CCDC, it's just one team. It's multiple teams. We can have as many teams as we want. Um, so it can be between both. Like you can create a team among your friends and just have it between you and your friends. That is an option you can have. You can also play with us on the day of. Like I mentioned, we usually have a room reserved to compete on that on a day. So you can compete with us. You can compete like between your friends. Reminder: you don't have to be in person. You can do it online. So if it's a case like, for example, your teammates, they try to accommodate. They aren't available in person. They're at home or something like that, or they're far away. Then you guys can play on like hybrid. You can play like online as long as you can communicate online. That's what pretty much how it would work. So to answer the question, yes, we layered would have a hybrid serve team, but it would be multiple teams, depending on how many people register for the interest form. And that yes, it can also be between friends. or also like combination where if you have friends within layer 8, you guys can make your own team. Just mention it on the interest form that you created your own team, and that's pretty much. And then have your team captain register for you. I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, please just mention like oh that you wanted more details on that question. So if anyone uh, would like or interested in trainings, I can speak for the Linux side that I will be offering trainings that correlate alongside CCDC on Saturdays, but they will only be available towards CCDC members are who join us on Saturdays, who compete with us and have paid their dues. All right. I can't speak on Windows side because I'm not Windows lead. I don't believe they're doing anything for Windows. I think it's more like on your own like self study, self teaching. But you know, for Linux team, we're gonna be doing stuff that correlates with Hivestorm. Not like I'm not gonna be the coach. Like I'm not gonna go all full in depth, but it'll correlate. It'll help. So if you're interested, then be there tomorrow. As in, of course, the team itself. And to add on detail to the recording itself, that layer A dues are separate from CCDC dues, from what I recall. So unless I'm wrong, and somehow, but I believe yes that CCDC dues are different from layer A dues because CCDC gives you offers a lot more different resources in training and the option to compete with us, or the opportunity, I believe, the opportunity to compete with us on like bigger competitions like CCDC, not Hive, CPTC, and other ones that we compete and try to compete on. I was the end of my presentation. If you have any more questions, go on the Discord. You can ping me or any of the exec boards if you have any questions at all. I'll try my best to answer them in time because I get busy. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much for attending.